I am so excited to have one of my best friends and one of the sweetest, most awesome people that I know, Hillary Romero, on the podcast today. So, hi.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being on. I'm excited. This is going to be fun because we just go off on tangents, and so who knows what's going to happen, right?
Exactly. Just beware if you're watching.
Right.
I have to keep reminding myself that like other people will be seeing this conversation because I'm so used to just talking to you like openly. But yeah, got to be a little filtered, I guess.
As much as you want to be. So why don't you just share a little bit about your real estate journey, well, your journey through your business, kind of how you guys got started, what that journey looks like, and sort of where you're at right now.
Okay, so some of y'all don't know me, but my husband's name is Marco Romero. He actually has been in the real estate space for a really long time, much longer than we've been together, probably about 12 years at this point. And so I got into real estate through him. When we met, he was wholesaling independently. That was back when wholesalers weren't really that common. So I didn't even know what it was. And I remember asking him at one point, like, is that even legal? But I did know that when I was driving really, really early through rush hour to work every day while he was just kind of leisurely taking his time to get ready, that I really wanted to learn more about what he did. So pretty quickly I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, did a lot of seminars with him, a lot of networking events where I would just tag along and didn't know anybody. But just tried to really pay attention to everything he was saying, and picked it up pretty quickly. So from there, we met in 2014. So towards the end of 2014, we created our Hilco Homes company. Really, it was just creating the LLC because we were both working full-time jobs where we tried to do wholesaling on the side, but just due to the fact that we didn't have a whole lot of time, nothing really came of it. So it wasn't until 2015 where he proposed on my 30th birthday on July 1st, which is like dead middle of the year. And we decided to have a very quick marriage. So we got married in the end of September. So pretty much from that point on, when we had our honeymoon, I just remember he looked at me on our honeymoon in the Bahamas and he was reading The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. There was something in that book that just sparked him to like put his book down. He looked at me and said, we should do this full time. Like, let's take off running, like, let's do it. So I had already actually quit my job at that point. So I was wide open to any possibility. And Marco was working for a real estate investment firm and decided that, let's do it together. It was now or never. We also had just found out that I was pregnant. So it was kind of like one of those decisions that you have to make where it's now or never. If we have this baby and we're both working full-time jobs, it's a lot harder to let that fear go and say, I'm quitting the security of a paycheck. So it was really scary, but it was also very exciting for us to make that decision. So that was at the very end of 2015. And so 2016, January 1st, we took off running with trying to do the investing by ourselves. And I think that first year we ended up purchasing 9 properties, all with other people's money. So we do everything 100% with private funds and wholesaling as well. So the wholesaling was really just to like put food on the table, quick money, pay our bills. And then the investing was just our long-term future game plan. So that's kind of where we're at. He was an agent for a long time. That's how we got into all of this, is he became an agent for investors. So he was really good at determining what an investment property was based off numbers, because they're different than like retail market. And so I don't know, when he did all that, he taught me everything. I got my license. I'm now an agent here, and I'm starting to pick that up a little bit more and I actually just started my own group. So I'm really excited about that.
That is awesome. I saw that.
Yeah, we're really excited. So it's kind of my own little project that I'm, for the first time in like 5 or 6 years, just really passionate about it. And so it's exciting to know that I get my own little thing away from Marco. Even though I love him to death, it's like my little baby that I get to do fully by myself. So it's really exciting. So we're kind of like multifaceted in real estate. We do investing, wholesaling, and agency work. So
I love that.
Like a quick little summary. And the whole time we've been doing it as full-time parents too. So it's been a little tough. 2 pregnancies, and we're still here through a pandemic. This was the first first year, actually, I think it was January 6th was a Monday. Both kids were going to be in school full time, like the first year where we were going to get to be like full working people. The pandemic happened. So
Isn't that crazy how everything can just change just so suddenly? And
it's crazy.
yeah, but I love, I love your story, and I love that that you guys have taken advantage of what's could be, a very difficult situation, having kids at home, there's a pandemic on, you're trying to run a business, but you're still growing your business in different ways. And like you've taken on your own thing. And I think that's super cool. It's, some people have a hard time doing that, but I think like you've identified some opportunities and changed your business to kind of fit in with what's, with all these new changes. And I think that adaptability is very important you need to have that skill if you're going to be in business, because things change all the time, right?
Right. And I definitely think that this pandemic has made a lot of people step back. I know we've had conversations about this through the last couple of months of, when you're first hit with this crazy, like, we're not allowed to go to work and people are dying and it's such an unknown virus or disease or virus at this point. I think it threw a lot of people off course. I know we definitely took a hit in terms of like motivation, momentum, like just trying to get our team keep them motivated was very difficult at the beginning. And then Marco and I really had to have some long conversations and hard conversations to be like, well, what we're really pushing to do, maybe it's just not the right time to do it, or maybe we need to take a step back and totally reevaluate like what we're trying to do. What was the goal from years ago? Because I feel like over the last couple of years, the goals just we kind of got sidetracked from what our actual goals were, if that makes sense. And so this pandemic was actually a blessing in disguise for us, because we really had the time to reevaluate. And I know you guys talked earlier on your podcast that we're working less, but we're actually making more money. And so that's kind of like a beautiful thing to realize, like all of this energy and time that was spent to like the everyday get the kids to school and get them back and like motivate the team and like be in the office and like answer everyone's questions and like be everything for everyone else. We really had to just take a step back and be like, wait, we're actually a little family of 4. So like, this is our reality right now. Like, we're together every day in this pandemic. So how can we spend more time together while making a lot of money, but not just focus all of our energies in the wrong spots? So I mean, aside from the actual pandemic itself and COVID-19 and people losing their lives and people living in fear, I still live in fear and I have a lot of anxiety around it. I would actually say it's been kind of a blessing for us just to get the time together and slow down a little bit. It's been really nice for us.
So with the just want to dig in for just a second with the anxiety surrounding that. Like why do you think you feel that way?
Well, my anxiety kind of stems from just years of I will admit that I'm already kind of hypochondriac-ish. Like I have like the tendency to be like, oh, like this thing hurts and what could it be like? And I go straight to like the worst case scenario. And I think my fear stems from like, so for those of y'all who don't know, I was married before Marco. And when I finally met Marco, I realized like, this is the person I'm supposed to be with. And so I think when you really find that person and you build that little family, you kind of worry. At least me naturally, I naturally worry for like, what could go wrong? Well, what could go wrong is like dying at a young age or leaving my kids or not getting to see them grow up. But then I also just almost 2 years ago, right before my son was born, like days before my son was born, my mom passed away out of the blue. And so I was already an anxious person, but then when my mom died out of the blue, when we weren't expecting her to pass, that kind of like was a wake-up call of like, well, your time on this earth is just so unknown and people can die for no reason. So I don't know. I think that's kind of where my anxiety lies, is it's a lot of little things wrapped into just this big bow of anxiety. I don't know. And then the pandemic, you hear of people that otherwise were perfectly healthy, not making it, or kids are getting sick. So I don't know. There's just a lot of anxiety around all of that. on top of like, how do we keep making money? So how do we keep making money to where we're not missing bills and my kids can still eat? And, you know, it's already hard enough as it is being an entrepreneur. And then it's also hard being an entrepreneur when you have kids full time. So I feel for anybody with kids right now that are, you know, that's a lot of people that are stuck at home. I'm at least lucky to be able to work from home and I can be adaptable. But, you know, being in a pandemic is just, I would imagine there's a lot of people out there with a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, for sure. Something I can offer you about that is there's a couple of things. You know, one is just realizing what you can and can't control.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Marco's like a big fan of telling me that.
So you already heard this, you know this, but yeah, just, you know, being mindful of that. You know, it's like you're draining your own energy focusing on the negative parts of it, you know, and the things that you can't control. And so the other thing is, and this is something I need to do too, because I have anxiety sometimes also, but I read something recently where she was talking about like when you imagine when you're always thinking about like what's, you know, this is the worst thing, you know, but like digging into that, okay, like I'm anxious about this and I'm worried about this. First, like, why am I worried about it? Is this something I can control or not?
Mm-hmm.
And then if this horrible thing happens, you know, like what is the worst thing that can happen? Like, what does that look like? And really taking a look at that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because yeah, like obviously dying in a pandemic is like, that would be the worst thing that could happen. But if that did happen, you know, do you have a contingency plan for your business, for your family, you know, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That way, those are things that you can control, you know, so, you know, you can control like wearing a mask or avoiding people, social distancing, things like those are all things that you can control. So if you know you can control that, then, you know, there's no reason to worry there.
True. That's a good point. And Marco tells me that too. And so, yeah, you're right. Like it's that deciding, well, since I can't control whether I get it or not, I mean, I can to an extent, but I can't not ever go anywhere again because that's just the reality. Like the virus will be here forever. So what can we do as a family? Obviously, wear masks, social distance as much as we can, clean a lot more than we have been, you know, or be more mindful about just everything. But also like when it comes to just me personally, like I'm trying to continue my working out, my running, eating right, eating fruits and vegetables, drinking a lot of water, getting vitamin D, like really just trying to build my immune system. So I've been doing a lot of that. I was already on that kick of like trying to be healthy. But this kind of just reinforces more like, that's why you have to eat right and not eat processed food and drink all day long and kind of just
drink all day long. I'm kidding.
Which, you know, it's kind of a blessing too, because this was like at the end of last year is when I decided that I wasn't going to drink anymore. So I haven't had anything to drink in like 210 days or something crazy like that. So it's already amazing. Kind of like, yeah, it's hard, but it's actually, I feel pretty good about it. And, you know, just that's like you said, just do what you can control. So I've been really focused on like making sure I hit certain health factors every single day. And
so you're doing good. Yeah. So just, you know, think about that. When you start feeling that anxiousness, just know like, hey, I've done everything I can. I've done everything in my power. The rest of this is out of my control. So, you know, control what you can, let go of the rest.
Exactly. That, and also too, I would say, just to add in there is also gratitude. Like I keep trying to teach my children because they're also at that age where my daughter's 4. So she's at that prime age of like kind of getting out of temper tantrums, but like really bright, like she understands, but she's still a kid and she still has a hard time expressing herself. So we've been really focused, especially since everything happened. We were like, gratitude. We're like, are you being grateful? And so she's learning what that means. So I mean, for me personally, it's like, okay, my mind is going down this like negative dark tunnel. Like I've gone down the rabbit hole with fear. And it usually happens at night for some reason. When I'm busy during the day with the kids, work, I don't really think about my anxiety or my fear very often, but it's at night when it's like, okay, it's quiet in the house and like I actually am alone. So for me personally, it's gratitude. Like I just think of all the things in my life that I'm really grateful for, my family, my really close girlfriends, like what I'm doing right now, you know, just the fact that we get to be together every day as a family. And that really helps. It's really just like when I start to go that direction, like mentally shifting to the positive things. And it really actually it has helped me a lot.
Yeah. Gratitude is very powerful.
Yeah, it is.
And especially using it in that way. And I love that you said that because you put a positive spin on that. You know, it's like being trapped at home, you know, it's like, well, this could really suck, or I'm choosing to look at this as like, this is a good opportunity for me to spend time with my family, to have more time with my kids, to reconnect kind of, you know, and I know you and I've talked about this before, and I feel the exact same way. Like it was really stressful, I think at first, but then like you adapt, you know, and you find workarounds and you make it work somehow. And then like, I am glad to have the moments with my kids and to be able to, you know, spend time with them during the day, you know, not like every single moment, because, you know, we still have to work, you know, but like finding that perfect, I shouldn't even say perfect because I don't believe that there's like a perfect balance. You know, I still believe in that idea of like anything you put energy towards, you're taking away from something else. So those moments where you're not spending time with your kids, you're being productive elsewhere. And that's not to say that's a bad thing. It's just like an energy shift.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
So, oh, go ahead.
Let's talk a little bit more about that. Like the challenges of working at home and having, in your case, small children, because I know like a lot of us are in that boat where we've got kids at home and trying to like figure that out. Can you talk about what that looks like? What does your day look like? How does that go for you?
I know a lot of people, especially with kids at home, are trying to be very structured in like wake up at this time and then you have breakfast and schoolwork, and that probably works really good for our older kids, but like the reality is we just don't have a structure and it seems to work for us. So Mark and I are always together anyway. We're like, even before this pandemic, we've been basically side by side for like almost 6 years. And we've learned really how to, we over the years, we've learned how to communicate, and we both have different things going on. There are phone calls he needs to have with people that I'm not part of, and saying like, this is a podcast that I'm doing with you. And we honestly just have to really communicate. Communication is key for us. And then like just making sure we know everything that we need to do is in a calendar. So when I'm planning something for me or for him, like we just have to communicate, and we pass the kids off to each other. Like I might have them for 2 hours and then we switch and then we switch and then we switch. It's really just trying to tag team the kids. They are at a very difficult age. And like I said earlier, I feel kind of guilty because sometimes the only way I can get anything done is if they're in front of a TV. Now I try and make sure it's educational. I'm like, well, if they have to watch TV for the whole morning, then at least it's going to be something they're going to learn. So we try and put on like spelling or, you know, I don't know, the Magic School Bus is fun, but it's also educational. And my daughter was actually just talking the other day about the body. And I was like, how did you learn that? And she's like, oh, the Magic School Bus. So it's like, I'm like, if I have to put her in front of a TV or both of them, I try and keep it educational. I try not to feel bad about it. It's kind of hard. It's like whatever we have to do to keep making money. And keep the family going. I mean, it's not easy, but so communicating and then really just time blocking. We make sure we look at our weeks in advance. We try and plan everything in advance. We're not the best at being spontaneous. It can happen, but it's really difficult, especially with kids. So, I mean, honestly, it's really just, we try and talk a lot. We try and have meetings together also to determine like what are the important things we needed to hit this week and what are some goals that need to happen. And then we just conquer and divide. So there are going to be some days where I don't have as much going on, but I know he really needs to focus. So I offer to take the kids all morning, and it's literally just me downstairs with them while he's upstairs locked away in the dungeon. working.
You put Marco in a dungeon, poor Marco.
He loves it. Believe me, if you
He
ask
probably
him,
does.
all he wants for like birthday or Father's Day or Christmas or whatever special days are for him is like to be alone from everybody. So
And that's something too, right? Like, let's talk about that for a minute because, I was thinking about that, with people, everybody being at home and stuff, being at home with your spouse or partner or whatever, and kids and everything. And I just think it's really important to take time to be alone if you can. It's in some way, even if it's, going and soaking in the tub in an hour for an hour, in the evening or something, or going for a run. Or I think it's important for us as parents and adults and business owners to have that kind of like quiet downtime for ourselves, and even for the kids too,
mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, for them to, to have some space to be alone, especially if they're siblings, and they're like together, and then you start having arguments and stuff. Like, I know, oddly enough, and I've been surprised by this with my kids at home. So my son, Weston's 8, and Sophie just turned 12.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's enough of an age gap, and then of course like the gender difference, so I think if he was like a little sister, it'd probably be different, because I remember what that was like with me and my sister. But they actually haven't really been bad being at home, as far like they've been getting along for the most part. They haven't, and I think that's kind of interesting. And I'm thinking maybe the reason why is because they have their own space.
Yeah.
Like her room's on one side of the house and his room's on the other side of the house.
Yeah.
And so they can separate, from each other and not have to be. Now we do make them, they have to come together. Like we do swimming in the evening and stuff like that, like family time kind of thing. But they also have their own space to go to, which I think is good for kids also. But then, for us as adults too, just, like Marco having his space and you taking your space, going out running and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I think it's important for our minds, right?
It is for sure. Yeah, I try and do. So I really love my outdoor walking, but it's so hot that I have not been getting outdoors. But I still take the time to do like a quick indoor run or walk on the treadmill. So I still try and do it at some point during the day, even if it's just like 30 minutes. Like maybe all I have in me is 30 minutes, either with time or just like energy. Sometimes I just don't have the energy, but I'm like, 30 minutes is all I can do, then that's what I need to hit. So I try and do that every day. And then once the kids go down, I know Marco decompresses. He's doing his own thing, whether it's he's either working or he's playing a video game or he's reading. And then I kind of do the same thing. I watch a show or I read or I, talk to friends. So that's it's very important. We also are very strict with our kids' bedtime. I know we've talked about this. Everyone.
I know. I so admire you for holding to that, because I'm not good at that.
Everyone thinks we're just insane, but we make sure the kids go down by like 6:00. And so I don't care if they go to sleep I don't care when they go to sleep. I'm just like, okay, y'all, it's quiet time. Elia, you're in your room. Roth, you're in your room. Roth is still a little too little, so he kind of just gives up and goes to bed because he's actually in the dark. But Elia just is quiet. And I'm like, you can do whatever. You can play dress up, play with your dollhouse, play with Barbies, read. I really don't care what you do. Just be quiet and be in your room and don't get into trouble. So, and then she just tells us when she's ready to go to bed. And I found that by giving her the independence to decide when she's ready to go to bed, it's really kind of cut back a lot on the bedtime crazy. Like we were having her scream bloody murder every single night because she didn't want to go to bed and she wasn't tired and she wasn't ready. So we kind of just, with pretty much within the pandemic, actually, we're kind of just like a loose family. Like you can kind of go to bed whenever, you can kind of wake up whenever. We kind of work around that. And ever since we've given her that independence to come decide when to go to bed, it's been wonderful, actually. Sometimes it's immediate. Sometimes we're like, okay, have your free time, and 5 minutes later she's like, I'm ready for bed. Okay, cool. Sometimes it's like an hour later if she's like just hyper or not tired. So I don't really care, but it's really nice because she has her own time. Like you said, it's even important for kids for her to have her own time. Roth, not so much. He's still little. He'll be 2 in September. So he I mean, we just transitioned him to a big bed. He was getting out of his crib like all the time.
Oh gosh, that's so scary. I remember my
It is
kids doing
scary.
that.
Well, I wasn't scared about him getting out. I was scared about him getting back in, because getting in is a little bit different. And
Mhm.
Ellie had never tried to get out of her crib. So this was new for us. And so I was like, well, until we get the actual mattress for his big bed delivered, it took forever too. So until we got that, I was like, let's just take the crib front off so he can get in and out. And once we did that, it was a lot easier, because he just gives up after 5 minutes of crying and goes back to bed. He stands like by the door, but he's got like the baby lock on it, so he can't get out.
Oh.
But but no, it works, because after 5 minutes, he's like, okay, no one's coming. So then he just crawls back in bed and goes to sleep. So it's actually been good. I think that's his little quiet time.
Yeah. So there is a little bit of routine there in that, actually. It's kind
Yeah.
of funny, right? It's like you can still find the routine sort of in the chaos.
Yeah, it's definitely a flexible routine. Like
Yeah.
they have the same structure, but if there are nights where we don't go to bed as early, it's fine. It's like the same process. And it seems to work pretty well for us.
Yeah.
And in the mornings too, like our daughter used to come in and wake us up every day, and she'd be like, "The sun's awake." Yes, it's light out, Elia. But like, so we've been teaching her too, like, even if you wake up before us, you can have your quiet time. She knows how to turn the light on. I trust her at this point to not choke on anything or put things in her mouth that she shouldn't. So I'm never really worried, but she just plays quietly until she hears that we're awake. And then when she hears that we're awake, she'll come and talk to us. And yeah, it's nonstop once they realize we're awake.
I know that feeling.
And Marco's over there like, just 5 more minutes, just 5 more minutes. And I'm like, babe, let's just get up. Like,
They're
I
not
can't
going to stop.
sleep through the chaos. Like, we should just get up at this point. So
Yeah, that's, Weston's like that. Like he's just got like a relentless personality.
mm-hmm.
And so like he'll just keep coming back. He won't stop. He'll just be like, I said I was hungry.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have legs?
And you have arms, and you know how to open the refrigerator.
I know. Well, but then stuff happens. Like I went in his room earlier and I was like, what the hell's going on here? He was sitting in his chair, playing his video game. And I look and he's got like the freaking box of Teddy Grahams, like half eaten on the chair with him. And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I can't picture all that. Now, I still can control my kids to an extent, but I can already see like their personalities come out getting older. I feel like Roth will be like Weston, and he's already like, I had to put all the kitchen chairs on the actual counters today because he keeps pushing the chairs over to get snacks and food off the counter. So if I'm not paying attention, like bananas are half like eaten and like peels are everywhere and like the bread's like ripped open. So I physically put all of our kitchen chairs on the kitchen table and on the on the counter. And Marco comes downstairs and is like, what's going on? This was literally today. And I was like, Roth won't stop getting on the counter or climbing on the table. So I don't know what else to do.
It's like a raccoon got in your kitchen or something.
So active, and it's crazy. Boys and girls are so different. Like Ellie had never tried any of this. It was like, sit still, be right here, and she would just sit there. And he's all over the place. Like we can't even keep him from going upstairs, and he runs and he hides at the furthest depths of the closet in the dark. It's just, what is going on with this kid? He's just so rambunctious.
He's a boy. He's a boy. That is something I learned. So, I have 4 girls and then the boy comes along and I'm like,
and he's the baby.
Yeah. And he's the baby. So he's a little rotten. I mean, but we all love him, but I'm just like, I don't even know what to do with him because he's got so much energy and he's like, he can't ever just walk somewhere. He has to run everywhere. He has to jump on everything. Like I remember when he was young, like Roth, and he would just like get on the couch, like jump off the couch or jump off the coffee table or like fall off of the bar stool, like constantly. That always was the big thing that freaked me out because he fell off of it because he was doing the same thing. He was trying to climb up on the counter. So he'd get on the stool. The stool didn't have a back. So he'd lose his balance and, on the floor. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Roth's favorite thing right now is jumping from the coffee table to the couch, but he kind of does this little tuck in. And I'm just like, I look at them and I'm just like, well, I told Marco, we're going to have to probably go to the ER sooner than later. This kid is going to break something. And I just, instead of worrying about it all the time, like, see, I'm such a worrier. Instead of, I'm just like, you know what? I've accepted that we're just going to have to go to the ER at some point for this kid. So I'm just not going to worry about it anymore. It's like pointless.
Well, and it's hard, you can't, it's hard to keep like both eyes 24/7 on your kids, especially when you're trying to work at home.
Yeah.
That's, that was always a difficult thing for me, having the kids at home and trying to work. I just remember, I remember just kind of doing what you guys do. So like just working around a lot of things, with them. So like, I'll never forget, just like Sophie, she would climb in the back of my chair right here. And she called it, she said, I want to get in your back seat. And so she would just be in the chair. So I'm like this, like trying to work, and my chair's like rocking back and forth. And, I'm trying to call people, for work. And she's just, da, 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 like in my ear and doing stuff. And then when Weston came along, it was like, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah.
So, we kind of did the same thing too, is just kind of trying to share the time. And then I noticed, in your office, I'd done this too, is like having a play area kind of set up in my workspace. That way, at least they could be in the room with me while I was working, and I didn't have to worry about where they were in the house, what they were getting into. It was like they had this like fun area, where I was working. And then, I remember I hired a nanny, and that was super helpful. And that's one of those weird things. Like I felt weird about hiring a nanny, because it just seemed like, I don't know, like I was somebody that I'm not. I don't know. I just had a weird like thing with that. And then I realized, and then of course it's like, can I afford a nanny? Like, what does that look like? But then it was almost like, I can't afford not to have one at this point, because now they're everywhere. They're into everything. I can't manage them and get my stuff done. And so hiring help was really helpful for me, getting through some of that stuff.
I was trying to, I will say though, like, even though it's chaos, like every day is just chaos. And, but it still goes back to the gratitude thing for me, because I could see it as, well, if the pandemic never happened, we'd still be on this path where they're gone every single day, and they're both at this like vital stage in their life. They're so little, but like, I feel like these are the times where we really need to be present. And I get the pleasure and privilege to be with them. So even though it's really hard, and there are definitely days where I'm just like, I am over it, and I am counting down to like dinner time, because I know right after dinner at 5 o'clock, it's like quiet time and bedtime. So it's like, believe me, there are days where I'm counting those hours down. But I also get to see my son, who's at that prime stage where he's like learning everything, and he's starting to talk, and his personality is just blossoming, that I am just so grateful. Because just with this whole pandemic, we don't know what's going to happen. I could catch COVID, Marco could catch COVID, we might not survive. We don't know these things. Like it's such an unknown time, that I am truly like, every moment that my son comes up and wants to give me a hug, he's such a hugger. He'll like, in the middle of me working, he'll come up and be like, hug. So I shut my computer and I just hold him, and I hold him until he like lets me, or until he basically says, no more holding me. I hold him until he basically squirms out of my arms, and I just like breathe him in, because I'm like, I don't know what tomorrow looks like, especially with my mom dying out of the blue. I don't know, like people just die. Apparently that does happen. So I think it's such a vital time, and the pandemic really has like made us realize it. So Marco and I really try and spend time equally with each kid by ourselves. So like we rotate at night. So here's a good thing that we do. We just started doing it too, like within the last couple of weeks. We rotate who has what kid at night. And so now that Roth is finally, so they both have full size beds, because I grew up with having a twin size bed my whole, like all the way to college, actually through college, because I was in the dorm. So I was like, why do I have to have this twin? So I hated that about my childhood, was like never having like more room on a bed. So both of my kids went straight from a crib to a full. And now that we just have his bed set up, it's only been like less than a week. It's like nice because we both can lay down with each kid. So I, instead of just holding Roth, where then I put him in his crib, like I can actually physically lay on the bed with him and I talk to him and I sing to him. And the next night I get to do that with Ellie and have like better conversations because she's actually talking. So it's like, what did you like about your day today? And like, let's spend time together. And it's, you know, we both switch places each night, so we equally have alone time with each kid. I just think it's such a vital time for both of them. And even though Roth can't fully communicate, like he's totally understanding what I'm saying, and he is responding with like yes and no. And you know, I was like the other night, I was like, Roth, do you like your big boy bed? And he was like, yes. And he got all excited and proud of his bed. And it's just nice having those little conversations with both of them. And so I don't know, it's so important. This pandemic is like, I feel like I'm all over the place with it, with like, I'm really, really happy, and then I'm fearful, and then I'm doing good one minute, and then the next I'm like worried about something. But I am trying to look at the blessings that came with it, for sure.
Yeah. And I love what you said about like you guys spending one-on-one time with the kids, because I think that's important. And I think that was like really, it was a really great thing to bring up, because I think that a lot of times like that responsibility lies with one parent and sharing that, but then like having that moment of like one-on-one time with that child, because they need that, especially when you have more than one kid. And I learned this kind of the hard way because I have so many kids, but they're all spread out in age too. So like their needs are all different, you know, and I realized, you know, as I got older, because I was a very young mom, and then I was like a kind of a normal aged mom, and then I'm like an old mom now. But like having that time specifically with that child, so not like, you know, like we're going to do something, like family time's great, you know, you're all together, but they really need that one-on-one also. And so I love that you guys do that, because that's something I wish I'd have started doing sooner. I do it now, but I wish I'd have done more of it when they were younger, so that they did have that time where they feel special. You know, that's mommy, that's me and mom time, you know.
And both
it gets easier when they get older, you know. Now I can take them, you know, like do things with them one-on-one, the older kids. But
Marco and I are both like different in parenting. I would say we're both good. I mean, I'm going to pat myself on the back and say I'm a good mom. I mean, I think I am. I try really hard to like be present and patient. I mean, patience is my weakness. Like I'm not very patient, but I'm working on it. But Marco and I are both fun in our own ways with the kids. So like Marco is super playful and goofy. I can be playful and goofy too, but I'm more like, I don't know, like I'm more of like, let me hold you and sing to you. And I know Marco's probably never sang to a kid, but that's not what he does. He's like, he likes to like mess with them. Like we'll put on a movie and he'll start talking about like a totally different movie and be like, oh, I love this movie. I love Aladdin, but we're watching Little Mermaid or whatever. And he like goes and goes and goes until Elia realizes that he's messing with her. And so it's like their playfulness. And so we're definitely different. And so I think that's really critical for kids to have like moms like this, and this is her special, like this is me being special with this kid and me being special with this kid. And yeah, so the alone time is good. And when I do my walks in the mornings, I try and take a different kid every day. So it's easier for me and for Marco if I take Roth, because he's the crazy one right now. Like you can't keep him still. So when I take him, he's lighter. So it's easier for me when I take him on the walk, but he's also out of Marco's hair. So, but then Ellie is like, what about me? And I'm like, okay, babe, I'll take you tomorrow, which is harder for me because she's heavier. So me pushing her, it's more of a workout. I guess I can't complain.
Your hard workout day.
I'm getting a better workout. But it's harder on Marco because that means he's home with the baby who's like all over the place. So but I still try and make it even. I say, okay, tomorrow I'll take you, you know, and she likes that. And sometimes too, like if I go and spend time with my dad, he just moved and has a pool now. So sometimes during the middle of the week, I'll be like, hey, Elia, do you want to go with me? Because she's easier for me and I feel safer taking her swimming than I do with the baby. So it's kind of like a one-off trade. I know that she feels pretty special when she gets alone time with my dad. Mm-hmm. She also feels special when she gets alone time with Marco's parents. So, you know, it's just about, I don't know. Yeah, both kids, and they're both different with different needs, different ages. But I mean, she's got like more independence because she's older.
Yeah.
So there are just kind of differences. And yeah, the alone time is great. Honestly, I can't even take credit for it. Marco the other day was like, oh, I just spent time with Elia for like 20 minutes at night. He was like, you should do that too. So then that's when we started rotating each kid at night. So we equally, so it's like it's both our responsibility for bedtime, because whereas when we had one kid, it was like, okay, you're on for like a week. If she needs anything after these hours, it's your job. Like
Yeah.
I get a week off to like relax. But now with two kids, it's like there's none of that. It's just we both equally participate with the kids. And
Which
but
is
Marco,
fair,
it is. Marco's always been a very fair partner. It's like 50-50 for us, and he's never made me feel like it's only my responsibility. And so I give him credit. He's a good dude for sure.
Yeah, Marco's all right. Just
Yeah,
kidding. You know, I love Marco.
he's
All right.
He's I.
He's all right.
I guess I'll keep my marriage to him. It's funny because I told him, I was like, we're never getting divorced. Like I will murder you before. And everyone out here watching, like this guy, he's not divorcing me. It's not happening.
There's no escape for Marco.
No.
No escape.
Haven't you ever read Gone Girl?
I did.
I did too. That's a good book.
He is great though. And I love, I think that's something, I talked about this on the, excuse me, on the More podcast before, where it's like, I think like as parents, especially when there's the mom and the dad, like the mom is, we're always like the nurturing ones, like give me a love, like let's hug, let's kiss, let's, and being like the nurturing person, like we feel like we're responsible for the kids. Like it's our job, but we forget that we have a partner, and it's equally their job to parent as well. It's not all just on us as mothers, the fathers play a role too.
Right.
And so, I love that Marco takes the time to spend individual time with the kids. I think that's awesome. Like that you can't, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. This is obviously going to be edited because my brain just went, but it's good. I guess what I'm saying, like, it's good that you both take responsibility, that it's not just one parent over the other parent, it's both your job. It's both your kids. There's no reason why it all has to fall on one or the other. And so being able to share the responsibility and not just the responsibility, but the love too, like the one-on-one is important. And then being present in those moments too. And that's something I just wanted to touch on too, is just, you had mentioned this is something I'm a big believer in, is being in the moment, and so even though things are crazy and they're difficult, and it's hard to get your work done around having kids running around and having to take care of them and balance all that stuff out. But, like having that dedicated space in your mind and in your day to say, this is the times that I'm going to be super productive. Everything that I'm doing is going to be important. It's going to be something that moves my business forward. It's going to be something that is like critical things that need to happen. And then when that's done, then you close the door on that day, and then you can be present with your family. And I think that's, I think that might be something that a lot of people are struggling with right now, working at home. If you haven't worked at home before and now you're working at home and you're having to deal with like, you're working at home and your spouse is at home with you and then your kids are at home with you. And like, how do you manage all that?
Right.
How do you turn it off? How do you turn off the work, when it's there in your face all day long? And I think the key to that is a lot of what you guys are doing already is just like having that dedicated focus time, knowing that those tasks are the important tasks that need to be done. And at the end of the day, you can be with your family and you're like not only physically there, but you're mentally present, which is the more important thing.
Right.
Because it's one thing to just be in the room working with them. That's not quality time. That's not being in the moment. You're working.
It's like being aware. So when Roth comes up to me, which is a lot, when I'm downstairs with them, I'm usually sitting on the couch. Like I have like my whole little setup, and they're on the other couch, whatever, jumping off of it and playing with each other. Whenever he comes up to me and he's like, hug, which is all the time, I'm like, okay. And I just shut my computer, I push it to the side, and I just like let him climb in. Cause I'm like, I know these moments alone with him hugging me and wanting me to hold him, these are going to be gone before I know it. And like that realization of like, this is like, I don't have a baby anymore. Like he's not in a crib. I mean, the last step is potty training, but I pretty much don't have like this baby anymore. I have a toddler who's growing up like super quickly right before my eyes. And so it's like, I know I'm at least aware. I know that like, I want these moments so bad that I will shut my computer. I don't care what I'm doing. Nothing is as important as like hugging my kid and really trying to breathe, or like I try and like just breathe it in and embrace it and like store it in my memory bank even, because it's like, oh, I like, it's hard. It's like, it gets me emotional thinking about it, but it's like, you know, you see photos of your kids when they're little and it's like your heart breaks a million times over and over throughout a course of a lifetime, because you're like, you miss the people they used to be, even though you're excited for who they are now, even though you're excited for who they're going to be or who they're becoming. It's like he like his little age right now and her age right now, they're so precious and they're so adorable and they're so stinking cute. And it's just like, oh, it kills me to think like this who they are now is going to be over by the end of the year. They won't be these people anymore. So I really try and be aware of that. And it's like just taking all those little things in, and I don't know, his hugs are the best. I love it because he's way more affectionate than Elliot was. And I was always like, I can't wait to have a kid who's just going to like cling to me. And then I had Elliot and she wasn't like that. She's more affectionate now at 4 than she was when she was little. And if she was affectionate, it was mostly to Marco. Like they really had that father-daughter bond. So like having this little bond with Roth where all he wants to do is cuddle and love on me, I'm like, yes, I will take it. I will take it all day long.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, you better enjoy that now, because I got to like grab Weston and just be like, I want to love you.
I know. It's like,
I just like, stop. He's like, you're cuddling me too hard. And like yesterday I told him, I went in his room to do something and I said, hey, have I told you today that I love you? No. And he goes, you tell me 1,000,000 times a day. Like he was angry about it. And I just said, well, I'm just going to keep telling you because I want you to know how much I love you.
He'll remember that though when
he's like, fine.
He will remember it. I remember that verbiage right there that you just said, have I told you how much I love you, is I remember my dad telling me that my whole life growing up. And it might have been annoying at the time and probably was, especially when I was in my, you know, teenager, high school, college phase. But like looking back, it's like that's so vivid in my mind of him telling me, have I told you yet today how much I love you? And like, I will always remember that. So I think that's great that you're doing it with him, because even if he's annoyed with it right now,
I know. I tell him. Really he did it last night too. I told him again, you know, I love you. And he goes, but I'm 8. And I said, so what? That means like, I can't tell you I love you anymore because you're 8. He goes, I don't know. Like, but the funny thing is like, not the funny thing. The good news, I guess, is that, you know, when we do those things and like, we're really present in the moment and we're grateful for those moments. And, you know, like when you close that laptop, you know, when he wants a hug, when you engage in those moments fully like that, you will never have regrets. Like you will never look back and say, I wish I would have worked more. I wish I wouldn't have closed my laptop when that, you know, when he interrupted me.
Yeah.
You won't regret anything because I don't know, you know,
I really took advantage of it.
Yeah, you were really, really present in that moment. And I love that you said like you breathe it in and everything too. And that's something I just learned too recently, is like part of a gratitude practice is when you're in those moments, like stamping those moments in your mind, not just at the level of like, I'm going to remember this, but like you really like latch onto the feeling of being grateful in that moment. And so what does that moment feel like for you? You know, like I'll never forget, and I think I talked about this before, but I want to say it again because it was so like, it was right after I learned about this different way of approaching gratitude. And it was like your 5 senses, like you're fully engaged in that moment. And that's how you really remember a moment.
Yeah.
And can go back to it. And I remember this one day, Weston was laying on the couch and he was just laying there doing something, I don't know, and he had like chocolate on his face, like Nutella or something from his waffle, and he was just laying there all cute, and I just he let me lay with him, and I wasn't being crazy like I normally am, I just like kind of very subtly cuddled up with him, and I just remember like looking at his face and like his little chocolatey mouth and his little blonde hair, and I was just rubbing his like hair, and his cheeks were just so soft, and I just was like, and I breathed him in the same thing. It's like I could just smell like little boy and chocolate and sweat and like
Exactly.
all these things, and it like it gave me a tear. Like I feel like I'm gonna cry now thinking about it again. It wasn't even like, but it was not a big moment. It was just a small, tiny little everyday moment.
Those are the best moments to remember, because just
It
like
is.
with the five senses, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, it's not just remembering him climbing; it's like the smell of his hair, and then like he's so soft. He's got like that newborn skin still, and his like face, and he's soft. So it's like the feeling of like my lips touching his forehead, or his soft little cheek, or hearing his little squeaky voice. Like if I'm like, do you, say mama, like at night when we're talking, I'm like, say I, and he's learning I love you. But when he says it fast, it's like a jumble. But when he says every word individually, he can say it. And it's just like hearing his little like boyish squeaks, of his little voice. It's like, I don't know. Like you said, breathing him in, all five senses, like all of it, the way he sounds, the way he feels, the way he smells. And you tend to remember those moments more when you're like consciously aware of like all five senses in those moments. Yeah, totally.
Well, that is really being present in a moment. It really is. And then you can go back to that moment, and that's what you're grateful for, and you live that moment again and again in gratitude, and it's the best feeling.
Yeah. And then it's like as they get older, you have new grateful moments where you stop to, okay, he's older now, or she's older now, and she's just gotten to school, and or whatever their life looks like, or you're really proud of their moments and their accomplishments, and those special moments between mother and son and mother and daughter and whatever. I am grateful, truly grateful for this pandemic in some ways, because they could be in school every day and we would not be bonding with them the way that we have been. I know at the beginning I was like losing my mind, like when you dropped off all the wonderful art supplies for me, I was like in the midst of like, I feel like I'm gonna go crazy, I can't do this like shelter in place anymore. And it wasn't even that long, I think it was like maybe 3 or 4 weeks in, but I felt like I was losing my mind, and I was like, how are we going to survive with both kids at home? But months have gone by now, and we've adapted, and I don't know, I'm choosing to look at it as a really good thing. And it's really hard, but it's been really rewarding as well.
For sure. Well, this has been really good. I've really enjoyed this, more of like just kind of conversation and just kind of talking about like parenting through a pandemic, like what does that look like, and how are we dealing with that? Because it's a real thing, and so I think we hit on some really good stuff here about being grateful, about being present in the moment, just working around the kids, just kind of finding those solutions, leaning on your partner when you need to, leaning on your friends when you need to, and just.
It's got to be very hard for those that are single parents and no support. Like, I don't know that I'd be this, at least where I'm at, I don't think emotionally or mentally I'd be this far along if I didn't have somebody who is in my corner rooting for me. Because it's a simple conversation with Marco. Like, if I just needed a day, even if I was like, babe, I need a day, I want to go crazy, I need a day, he'd be like, go do you. And he would take up super dad role. Like, and real quickly, I know we were kind of wrapping up with the funny thing is I feel like for the 5 years we've been doing this, I've always taken like the support role, like, whatever you need, babe, cool, you know more than me, you have more experience than me, you tell me what you want me to do, but otherwise I will support you, especially with the kids, because being pregnant, having babies, being breastfeeding, and still trying to do the business at the same time, like I just naturally took more of the kid responsibility until just recently, and he's kind of taken a step back from work, almost like he's taken a step back and I've taken a step forward to do my agency stuff and build my team and all the little projects I'm passionate about. And it's kind of exciting just to see that shift.
Mm-hmm.
And like, he's always been a great dad, but now it's like he's kind of taken more of that role. So I'm over here having this podcast with you, but yeah, it's just communicating honestly, and hopefully your partner is a good partner. And I'm talking to those out there, because your partner can either make you or break you. And I don't know, I just have to I really just give it all to Marco. He's a really supportive partner and business partner and dad and husband. So without him,
just having a good support system in general for anybody, even if it's not a spouse, even if it's a friend or
good friends and
family members. Yeah, I think it's just important. I think we need that, especially right now. I mean, I think we always need it, but I think it's like it's important now more than ever.
And I think it's okay to admit that like you need help. Like,
for sure,
there are going to be days where, I mean, I look put together right now, but there are definitely days where I'm just like not doing too good. And I'm like,
yeah,
I need a day.
I've had some of those days.
Exactly. We all do. So it's really just being able to say that and take it like put the pride aside and say like, I just need a day and I need help, or today is not a good day for me, and lean on those people that are in your corner rooting for you and supporting you and uplifting you. So
for sure.
It's hard to admit that sometimes when outwardly we want to be seen as perfect, but the reality is we're all human and we all struggle and we all have bad and good days, and
and nobody's perfect, and we should be mindful of that too. No matter what it looks like on social media or anywhere else, that's not reality.
Being vulnerable is powerful.
For sure. Well, thanks again for being on and sharing all your awesomeness with everybody. Do you want to real quick just let people know how they can find you?
Yeah, so you can easily find me on Facebook, just Hillary W. Romero on Facebook, or you can also find me through Hilco Homes, HILCO Homes, and also on Instagram. I think it's Hillary Romero. I don't know. You could find me through Melissa's Instagram.
We'll put the links up.
Yeah, I'm easy to get a hold of, and I'll respond if you message me. So just reach out.
Well, thanks again.
Thank you.